So these are a bunch of parabolas in Minecraft, and I'm going to show you how to make them. If we take a look around, each one of these parabolas can be really, really quick and easy to make if you understand what you're doing. And if we look here to the left, I made like a nice waterfall parabola, a whole bunch of water, and I think there's a sheep in there drowning. And I have a glass parabola, and here are a couple different types of lava parabolas here to the right. One of them still filling in down there, and the other one's just sort of an open arch. These aren't particularly difficult to make because Minecraft works exactly like Cartesian coordinates, the type of stuff you see with the big X's and squares and so forth on the board or in your homework at school. So, in learning how to do this, I assume you already have Craftbukkit and Scriptcraft already set up for your Minecraft. Those particular mods help you or allow you to do some programming. If you don't have them, go ahead and figure out how to do it. Go ahead and check it out. I have another video on that can show you how to do it, but there's also some websites that I'll teach you as well. So, starting out in Minecraft, I need to exit Minecraft. I'm going to go ahead and create a new document in some sort of text editor. In my case, I'm using Text Wrangler, but any sort of text editor, even just a plain text, would work. And I'm going to type exports.parabola because I want to call my thing a parabola. It makes sense, it's a parabola. So, parabola equals a function. Exports just means that anything else, any other code is going to be able to detect it. This means we're going to be able to detect it from within the game. We're going to be able to call this function, as it's called. And for now, I'd just like to say echo hello. I just want to make sure it's working, make sure that everything in the game sees my function before I go ahead and write a whole bunch more complicated stuff to do the math. So I say echo hello, which tells the computer to say hello to me, and finish the function. I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it as parabola.js. That makes sense. I want it .js because this is written in JavaScript. That's what Scriptcraft allows you to do. And I'm saving it in my folder, in the plugins folder in Scriptcraft. So it's Scriptcraft, a plugins folder, and then parabola.js. You may have it set up differently on your computer. You might be using a non-Mac. But in any case, you want to save it in that folder. And then when we go back to the game, we should now be able to call the function parabola and make something happen. So let's see. Back to game. Where's my mouse? What am I doing? Okay, so I'm back in the game. I do /JS space parabola with 2 parentheses. Those 2 parentheses are important. It says actually do this. Wait, what happened? All right, so there's nothing in there, and that's because I created a file, but I need to reload. To reload, I just do /reload, and that will allow the game, Minecraft, to actually see this new file I just created. Okay, so reload's complete. So now let me try again. JS space parabola 2 parentheses. And what happens? It says hello. Yay! Okay, so now I know it works, and I can go back in and redo some stuff and actually do all the math properly. Well, how do I do the math? How do I do the math for a parabola? You're going to have to go back to maybe your textbook a little bit, or just follow along in this tutorial and copy me. That's fine. So when I graph a parabola on coordinate axes, there's my x-axis and my y-axis, the parabola is going to come out somewhat like this. And here I've graphed every single point, all those infinity of points with just one simple line. Well, Minecraft doesn't do that. Minecraft makes blocks, right? And usually on integer values, so like -10, +10. Each one of these little etches here on the x-axis will be a different block. So if I'm going to graph this, I would go to, for example, -10. The computer's going to calculate how high up it is and then make a block on each one of those spots. And as you go through here, you're going to see there's going to be a little bit of a problem about creating a smooth parabola as the computer does this. Now down here where it's really tight, all the blocks are going to be right next to each other, and it's all going to fit together and work really nicely because the computer is going to make it, and they're going to be close enough that there seems to be no gap. But if you look back towards the beginning there, you can see there's a chance that we're going to have some gaps because the blocks are just going to be either much higher or they're going to be too far apart over that side. But let's make it and see what happens. So the way we go to every single spot in a JavaScript is we do a loop, right? And this is how a loop looks. I've created a variable x. I started at 0. I continue until x is 10. So I keep going until it's 10, and I add 1 each time. So here I've just changed my x from 0 to -10. But it's going to start at -10, go to -9, -8, -7, and so forth, all the way up till 10, and it's going to create y values based on this function that I've written here. The function is y is equal to 2 times x plus 2 times x plus 2. 2x squared plus 2x plus 2. And then I need to write beforehand, I want to write this dot checkpoint start point, and every time I go through my loop, I'm going to go back to that start point. That start point is effectively the origin of the axis, or really, in Minecraft, where I'm standing. Where I'm standing is the origin. So at the end of every calculation, I go this dot move start point, and that takes me right back to, well, right in front of me. So I've created an equation. I have x at 20 different places. I have what y is for each one of those places, but I haven't yet built the block. So to build the block, I'm going to use this nice stuff that Scriptcraft has, and I'm going to type in this, meaning me, what I'm doing right now. So this dot, and then I'm going to go to the right or to the left, however many I have for the x. So right -10, then right -9, then right -8. And in each one of those spots, I'm going to go then up, not this, just up, dot up, and I'm going to go up whatever y is for that value. So if x is 0, y would be 2, meaning 2 above my head, meaning the first blocks, the lowest block, should be right above my head at a height of about 2 blocks. And I'm going to actually make the box, and to make the box, you type box, parentheses, some number, end parentheses, and I'll make a box. In this case, I typed 15, which is going to be clay, as you'll see. Kind of boring, but later on we'll fix up what we do with the boxes. Let's just do the math right now. So I think I'm done. I think I've made the function the way I need to make it here. And it's going to loop through, and it's going to make 20 blocks for me. So let's go back to the game. And I'm going to type /JS space. And, well, I need to refresh it because I just added some math. So I refresh it. And I type again, /JS. Now, instead of doing refresh, I can just type in parabola and add my 2 parentheses, and it should work. Ah, there it is. There are my first blocks right there above my head. And if I look up, there are all the rest of them. All 20 of them going up towards the sky. Now, 2x squared plus 2x plus 2, it creates a pretty thin, narrow, steep parabola, as you can see. And we have a lot of gaps, which we're going to have to fix in a moment. And, oh, whoops, just fell into the water there. But let's see if I can get out of this. Fly, little man, fly. Fly upward. Uh-oh, fly, fly, fly. Okay, so as I go up, you can see that there's some huge gaps on those blocks as we go up. And that's just because the y distance is so much bigger than the x distance right here. And we want to sort of fill in those spaces in between. And the way we do that is simply by shortening, making the computer calculate for all the little gaps in between. And so I think what we're going to do is, instead of having x do +1, instead of starting at -10 and going to -9, I think I want to go like -10 and then -9.9 and -9.8, -9.7, -9.6. If I were to look at a graph, it would look, well, something like this. So coordinate axes again. Here's my nice parabola. Notice how the y gets so much bigger as x gets bigger, really, really small. So here, if I were to calculate, if I were to do it like, say, go to -9.7, -9.8, -9.6, we're probably going to end up with blocks stacked on each other. Because Minecraft doesn't really do 9.6. It just says, okay, at 9 we do this. Or if it's 9.4, it says at 9 we do this. But I'll get a bunch of the blocks in between in the y direction because it'll make a bunch more blocks. So let's see how this works. I need to come back here to the function. Instead of plus equals 1, I'm going to do plus equals 0.1. So it'll go, like I said, from negative 10 to 9.9 and so forth. And now let's refresh it. So it's refreshed. Now let's try parabola. Voila. What will it look like? See? Oh, so many more blocks. Much nicer, much smoother. Really more like a staircase, a proper parabola now. And if I fly up, as I get higher, you'll see some gaps start to appear. And if I wanted to get rid of them, I could just say instead of going every 0.1, go every 0.05 or 0.01 or something like that. But I'm not really going to bother. This is nice enough for now for what I'm doing. One thing I do want to do is make this whole thing a little bit more general. And I'm going to do that by, instead of doing y equals 2x squared plus 2x plus 2, which is the typical form for the parabola, I'm going to make it more abstract by turning the 2's into letters, variables, so to speak. In this case, coefficients. And traditionally, the coefficients are a, b, and c. So instead of using 2, we're going to use a, b, and c. Now in my function, I can add those at a, b, and c up in the function itself, and that way I can actually call it from Minecraft. I can use it from Minecraft. And then I go down to my equation, y equals, instead of 2 times x times x, I'm going to do a times x times x. And instead of 2 times x, I'm going to do b times x. And instead of plus 2, I'm going to do plus c. And this will allow me to change the shape of the parabola without coming back to the function every time and having to do refresh every time. I can just call parabola, add some numbers, and get a parabola. So let's try it out. So first of all, JS refresh, of course, yay, backslash JS refresh. Let me find an open spot so I can create my parabola somewhere. So / JS space refresh. So that way everything in Minecraft can see whatever I just wrote. Yep, and I think I somehow stopped thinking there. I don't need ones in there, but it'll still work. It'll refresh just fine. Now I want to do / JS and parabola, and then put my little numbers in there, like 1, 1, 1. That means that the equation for this new parabola I'm creating is going to be x squared plus 1x plus 1. X squared plus x plus 1. So 1, 1, 1. Let's see what this one looks like. Boom. There it is. There's my new parabola going upwards towards the sky. So each one of these coefficients can affect how this parabola looks. And right now, let's look at the first one, the a coefficient. Normally, if I'd say y equals 2x squared, can't quite see it in there because, wow, it's a little bit off the screen. But if I make it negative 2x squared, then I can flip the parabola. I can make all the y's go downward instead of up, and I can get a nice arch, which is kind of what we want to see. So it looks a little bit nicer that way. Some of the other things that can happen there, if I look at the C, I want an arch that's somewhat above the ground, because below the ground I'm not going to be able to see it. So in order to get an arch that's somewhat above the ground, what I do is I change the C value. If I put C at, say, 2, then the top of that arch is going to be 2 above the ground. So let's go try that out. You now have a great parabola function if you've been following along and you wrote this function on your own, and you can just test out different parabolas and see what they look like. So I found a nice open space here. Let's see what we can do. So I want to do / JS space, and let's make something here. Parabola, and instead of doing sort of a +1 or a +2 like I was doing before, let's try a negative. So I'm going to do -1, comma, let's just do 0 actually there in the middle. Let's take that out of the way. And then for the next one, let's do 10 or so. Let's put it up there above us. And notice that, well, I'm going to try 20. 20 might be a little bit high. Well, let's see. Got it upside down. Notice I sort of ignored the B. I'll let you figure out what the b does on your own. You can just try some different values for that middle number and see what it does. But there I have a nice arch. I've got a parabola. It's totally working. And we have a parabola function, so we can try out all sorts of parabolas and make weird things all over the place. What else is there to do? Well, maybe we don't want clay all the time. Maybe I want to make something different there. And instead of coming back to the code all the time to do it, let's just, again, add some other parameter to our function. So instead of having that be 15, let's call it, let's say type. And then I'll have a, comma, b, comma, c, comma, type. And so then you just have to add a fourth number in order to create something, you know. I mean, it can be TNT or lava or fire. Actually, fire is not going to stay up. It's just going to fall straight to the ground, but that's cool. You can put like fire on top of another parabola. You can make two in a row and make them on top of each other. I'm going to do a little something special with this type. Right now, we can just go in here and I can go somewhere and I can make a parabola with my new function. I need to make sure to remember to refresh it, but I'm going to make a parabola with my new function and just to make sure it works. So JS space refresh. Always got to refresh it. And then after we refresh it, we're going to try, let's refresh, beautiful. Okay, so let's make a parabola. So I type JS space parabola, and then let's make an arch-like, so let's do a negative something. 0.5, that'll spread it out, make it a little bit wider. Comma 0, again, you get to figure out what b does on your own. 20 seemed like a good height, and then comma, let's see, what number should I pick? I'm looking at a chart, and on my chart, I'm going to choose 46. What does 46 do? Boom. Okay, I made it. Where is it? Oh, it's above my head. Let me back away. It's TNT. So now I have a huge TNT arch. I could like light it on fire and make some fireworks. But I'm going to let you do that one. So that works. And I could also simplify things for myself here, but let's go try something else. What I want to do is sometimes I'm going to be lazy or I'm going to be in a hurry or something. I don't always want to necessarily have to type the type. So I'm going to say, well, if I forget to type that fourth one, I'm going to make it so it just automatically does something else. So the way you do this is with an if statement. So I say if the type of type is undefined, in other words, you haven't typed anything in there. So I type if type of type double equal signs undefined, and then I'm going to assign type to something very specific. Now, this type does not actually have to be a number. Each one of those numbers are just an abbreviation for some word for block. So in this case, I say type equals blocks.clay, and that'll work, and that'll give me some clay. So let's refresh it. Let's see if this works. Now remember, I'm going to forget conveniently the fourth one, and voila, I have something that's made out of clay. Nice parabolic arch reaching towards the sky. I think I added some funky numbers and something happened. Now I'm just going to go around and play a little bit. Ooh, 30. Let's see, it's way up there. Oh, it's way up there. It's not coming to the ground. The reason it's not coming to the ground is because I'm only going from -10 to 10. I could change this and go from, say, -20 to 20 and get a much bigger, wider arch. So now you know the basics about how to make a parabola, and it's your turn to have fun and do what you need and check things out and enjoy.